All right, so we are starting a new series, and it's all about unmasking. And this is going to be really fun because I think we can relate on a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks. So, we all know what it feels like to wear a mask, right? Halloween, we put a mask on. Maybe when we go to a party that is like a masquerade, we put a mask on. And I don't want to talk about those masks that we had to wear a couple years ago. So we're not going to talk about those. But see, when we are not ourselves, we put a mask on in front of people. We have um, um, this perfectly. We want our image to look perfect when someone sees us. You see it on social media. How many times do you actually see someone say, "Hey, I'm really struggling"? Not very often. Not very often. How many people are posting about their crazy uncle that got drunk in fist fight at New Year's Eve? Not many. Not many. We know people that put this fake smile on, even though they're really hurting and they're in desperate need of something. We act a certain way when 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 we don't want people to know who we really are. See, we wear these masks for many reasons, but it often comes down to fear. That we're afraid that if someone actually knows who we are, then they won't like us. And the problem is, when we wear these masks, it's super exhausting. Super exhausting. See, they don't hide things how we really want them to, and so we have to keep putting these masks on that keep covering up more and more stuff. They can't. They can even make us feel distant from people. Jesus demonstrates that we don't need to have masks on anymore. When he met the woman at the well, and he told her everything that she did wrong in her whole life. He's saying to her, "Hey, I know you're wearing these masks right now. You don't have to. You don't have to wear these masks. Come to me. I will give you living water. And I want you to go out and spread the gospel." And he meets us in this place every single day and says the same thing. Every single day where you're at, he meets you and says, "Hey, I know this is what's going on in your life. You don't have to wear that mask, especially not with me." See, the truth of having a mask on, it can be comforting, but it's also very challenging. See, it doesn't just hide us from others, it also hides us from God. So, why do we keep holding on to our masks? Why do we keep putting these masks on every single time we go out? Because you know, when you're at home, most of the time you're the most authentic with the people that you love. Well, one, masks often stem from our desire to be accepted and valued. From a very young age, we learn that we have to do a certain thing to get loved. We learn that if we're funny and we make people laugh, then they're going to love us. Or if I make sure my room is clean, then my parents are going to love me. And a lot of it can come from self image also, where if I can only lose 30 pounds, I would be accepted at school. If I was only 3 inches taller, I could play basketball. And over time, we start believing that these things are important. We start to believe these lies. And we start listening to other people. And we start doing things with other people that we normally wouldn't do. Lex, can I have you come up here real quick? I want to demonstrate something to you. Come on up. Come here. Come here. So I just want you to come over here. Okay. And see, Lex is now here, but we're going to come back over here. Okay. And now, Lex, I want you to put your fist out, push on my fist, and try to push me over. Okay, so why did you do that?
You told me to.
Yeah, I did tell you to. But why did you do it? Because you wanted to feel like you're a part of something. Like I literally brought you along. Now, normally, would you allow me to grab your arm and take you somewhere? No, no. Come back over here real quick. Come back over here. See, it doesn't change. It doesn't change. People, you can go sit down. People will do what everyone else is doing to make sure that that mask stays on. See, it doesn't matter if I had just told him and I just asked him why he did that, he still followed along. And we do that in our lives every single day. We can have a discussion about that later. No, see, when in our lives we get into these crowds of people, we start going along with what they think we should do. So uh, um, we get in a group of people, and all of them say, "Hey, we're going to go do this," and you really don't want to do it, but you still go and do it because that's what everyone else is doing, and you just want to be loved. See, there's danger in that. There's danger in wearing these masks that hide your true identity. There's danger in following the crowd. There's danger in not allowing yourself to be authentic. There's nothing new about this. This is something that we've seen in the Bible. And so in 1 Samuel 16, God sends the prophet Samuel to go anoint the new king. And Samuel thought to himself, who's the biggest? Who's the strongest? Who's the smartest? And so he's going to go to this guy named Eliab to anoint him to be king. And God stirs in his heart. And this is what God says to him: do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at these things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So Samuel is going to anoint this king, and he has no idea who he's going to do, but he really thinks that this one guy should be king, and God comes in and says, no, no, no. That person is not right. Just because he looks the part doesn't mean that he would be a good king. And so God sends this word to Samuel, and Samuel's challenged by this. We think of the most powerful people, and those people should be in charge, right? And in all reality, if we had maybe a farmer as the president, this country would be a little bit better. God came to Samuel and said, I don't think that guy's going to be good. So Samuel goes and finds David. And if you know anything about David, David is in the lineage of Jesus. And he is a man that was after God's own heart. And he became the best king ever. Now, he did screw up. Don't hear me and say that he wasn't perfect. But he was chosen by God. There's a cost of wearing masks. We mask. Mask may offer a temporary protection, but that comes at a high price. It comes at a very high price. One that can be deeply affected to our relationships, our own well-being, and our spiritual lives. One of the most powerful examples of the cost of wearing masks is the life of Robin Williams. If you know anything about Robin Williams, he is a comedic genius. Everything that he touched was gold. And it was so funny from Mrs. Doubtfire to Aladdin. It was amazing. He had this gift of making people laugh. But unfortunately, on the outside, everything seemed okay. But that was the mask that he was wearing. See, if you know anything about Robin Williams, that internal battle that he was battling with depression. He was dealing with anxiety, which eventually led him to take his own life. Because of the mask that he put on, he wanted everyone to love him, but that didn't change anything. Didn't change anything at all. His story reminds me of these hard truths that even though those who seem the happiest, those who look like they're carrying a light load, are carrying such a heavy load. Those who that seem to be happy are dealing with some dark things. While he wore that mask of being hilarious, funny, that pain that he kept inside kept him from having joy. Robin's story is heartbreaking, but I have a feeling that there's people in here that are going through that same thing. That everything seems fine on the outside. And if we can just make that person next to us laugh, or if we can just convince the person next to us that we're okay, then maybe we can deal with our own stuff. And that's not what God wants. Pretending to be okay when you're not is so draining. It's so draining. It literally makes you sick. You hear of these people that look like they have it all together, but then they die all suddenly from some mystery illness. I believe that's because they have been trying way too long to convince people that they are okay. Like Robin, the acting part of this, we've gotten really good, really, really good at acting like we're okay. And God doesn't want that. God doesn't want that. So if you're in this place right now and you are wearing a mask that you feel like that you've convinced every single person in your life that you're okay and you're not, you don't have to wear that mask. You don't, especially not with God. Especially not with God. See, the amazing truth of the gospel is He doesn't want us to hide from Him. He doesn't want us to be away from Him. Even all the way back in Genesis, when He created Adam and Eve, He wanted to fellowship with them. He wanted to walk with them. He gave them rules. Hey, you can do anything you want, and I will be with you, but don't eat from that tree. And they ate from it. And eventually, what did they go do? They went and hid. They went and hid. Not only did they hide from God, but then they put fig leaves together to cover up their most sensitive parts. And God comes to meet them in the garden, and they're hidden. And then He eventually finds them, and He sees that they're covered up, and He says, "Who told you that these areas need to be covered up?" It's like taking some innocent person. You think of little kids that are innocent, right? They know no they know no hate, right? They are clean as clean can be, and something switches in them where it's all of a sudden, I don't want to wear that. My friends are going to say, well, who's telling you that you can't look that way. There's this overcoming of trying to fit in and not be authentic. Psalms 139, 1 through 4 says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my laying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely." It doesn't matter what we're going to do, it doesn't matter what mask we put on, we cannot hide from God. He knows all these things. He knows what's in our heart. God knows every detail about each one of us, down to how many hairs we have on our head. That's how much He loves you. Our thoughts, our actions, even our words before they are ever spoken, He sees. He sees our strengths, He sees our flaws, and yet He still loves us. He wants us to be authentic. He doesn't want us to continue to have to wear these masks that aren't us. So much so, I like to think of it like this. Peyton is learning how to walk. And he'll take a few steps and then he'll fall down. Now, when he falls down, do I scold him and say, "What are you doing? Why can't you continue walking?" No. No, I lift him up, give him praise, and send him on his way. That's what God wants from us. When we put these masks on, when we feel out of place, God doesn't scold us in that. He doesn't scold us in that, but He does want us to remove it. So He picks us up, sets us on course, sends us on our way. But there has to be something in that. There has to be something, and why God loves us so much, and uh, He sees those missteps that we do, just like Peyton falling down. He sees us in our weakness, but He doesn't turn away. He reaches out with His grace and His mercy, and He urges us to keep moving forward. Take the mask off and keep moving forward. God already knows everything about us. There's no need to pretend or hide anymore. We can start by removing the mask. Here are some ways that you can do that. Pray. Tell Him what is going on in your life. Set aside some time each day and pray. Maybe it's in the morning. Maybe it's in the evening. Maybe it's when you're in the car. Shut the music off. I know there's been times where I've driven from here to home, didn't turn the radio on, and I don't know how I got from here to home because I was praying so much. You may say something like, "God, I'm falling short in these areas. Lord, I need a breakthrough in this." By bringing your true self to God, He meets you with gracefully. It's also really important that you find like-minded people, people that think the same as you, where you don't have to wear a mask. That's really important that you do that. So you know that you have accountability in the things that you're doing and the things that they're doing. It's important that you are open and honest with that person or those people. Maybe by joining a small group, maybe starting in a small group. See, your worth isn't tied to how people perceive you. It's only by how God perceives you. When we live authentically, it's like standing before a mirror that reflects not just our true selves, but also God's grace and His love. See, authentic, being authentic doesn't transform us, but it helps. It inspires us to help others. It inspired us to live freely. And God steps into those moments. We see this powerful example in John 4 when when Jesus met that woman at the well. So much so that after he met her and he had this discussion with her, she wanted to go and tell everyone that this guy told her everything that she did wrong. You have to go see him. Imagine if that was us. That if we met Jesus in that spot and he says, "This is everything that you've ever done wrong, but I still want to use you. Now go and tell everyone that." Go and tell everyone that. This woman had multiple husbands. She had sinned so much, and yet he used her first to go spread the gospel. A broken, sinful person that God picked, that Jesus picked to go spread the gospel first. When we're authentically living, when we step into that, we stop trying to polish ourselves. We stop trying to impress others. We break away from the, "Hey, come with me, follow me." We stop with what the world says about us and we start to look at what God says about us. How many of you in here looked in the mirror this morning? Yeah. Okay. So everyone, basically. But how many of you actually looked in the mirror? Like, so we can look in the mirror and we can see ourselves and we can fix our hair, can make sure that pimple on our face is covered up. We can see the outward appearance, but how many of you have looked in a mirror and looked into your soul, into your eyes? How many of you spend time actually looking at those things? Not the beauty side, not the beauty side of the mirror, but the things that are in your heart. It's kind of freeing to just sit there and stare at yourself in the mirror. I challenge you this week to find yourself looking in the mirror and just looking at your reflection. And I want you to think about, am I reflecting who I really am? Am I reflecting who God has called me to be, or am I reflecting something else? Am I reflecting what the world says I need to be? Am I reflecting that pain that I'm covering up with that mask? Do I have these deep, dark things I'm harboring? Or do I have this mask of perfection? See, God accepts us freely. And God accepts us and He wants us to take our mask off. And He wants us to live authentically. And He wants it done in His grace. He doesn't want just a polished version of you. He wants your heart. And He wants you to help others so they know that they don't have to wear a mask anymore. It's the best part. He loves us so much that He doesn't care about all of our mistakes. He picks us up and He sends us on our way. This week, be intentional about being authentic. This week, look in the mirror and look to see what mask you're wearing, and then take small steps to start removing that mask, or take small steps to start removing one of the masks that you're wearing. Because I have a feeling a lot of us in here are wearing multiple masks. A lot of us. Remember, it doesn't matter what the world says. It only matters what God says. And it only matters if we're authentic with Him. God can use each one of us in mighty ways, but we have to take the masks off and we have to be authentic.